Hello everybody. I just finished the Yardistry 12 foot by 14 foot cedar gazebo. This is it standing after it's finished. It was about a 4-day project, at least 8 hours each day. I thought I'd make this video for helpful hints. This is nothing to surpass the directions, but always follow the directions, but I thought there was a few helpful hints that made it a little bit easier. When you get your manual, steps 1 through 6, we took one day and we used two people to assemble the beams that go around the top. We using 2 people, it kept the beams straight when you can connect the screws. So if you can remember that for steps 1 through 6. When setting up the posts, after you assemble the beams, when we assembled the posts, we used 3 people. We were able to do it with 3 people, and we really didn't have any problems. It was pretty easy to assemble. But one thing that they do stress in the directions or in the video is use a leveler. Now when you use the leveler for the posts, you want to level this side and you want to level this side, 2 sides. Don't just level one side, because you'll get a measurement over here on the one side and then you'll get a bad measurement on this side. You want to make sure these 2 measurements line up where the bubble's in the center for each post, and it'll make the project a lot easier. It'll make it to where your posts are standing straight, and it helps later on with everything to assemble. The measurements in the book were a little off. Always follow the directions, but the measurements just didn't work for me. I just made sure the posts were straight, and as long as I knew the posts were straight, it's kind of like a puzzle that goes together. It's not something that you can move a foot one way or a foot another way. I just made sure everything connected appropriately. But steps 7 through 11, which have to do with doing the roof, the roofed beam brackets, leave one side, leave the brackets off. It'll be a small panel out of the 4 panels on the roof. Leave these brackets off on one of the panels, and it'll make it so much easier when you assemble your roof. You can get the 4 panels on, as long as you're making sure everything's flush along the sidings of the roof panels. That's the most important thing. Steps 12 through 15. I noticed in another video a guy mentioned that the top roof screws, he used a torque of 4, and I used that, and it worked really well. It didn't over torque into the roof, and it was perfect. So I used a torque 4 on everything that was on the top of the roof panels for the roof screws. And then when you get to the inside of the roof panels, where you want to make sure everything's flush, and the most important word about the project of the roof is you want everything flush along the edges of the roof panels. So I changed the torque to a little tighter torque, so the screws would go all the way into the wood, and I knew everything was flush along the lining of the sides of the roof, because that's the most important thing I think about the roofing, is you just want to make sure everything's flush. You don't want screws sticking out. You want to make sure everything's as tight as it can be, because when the roof goes up, it'll sit more appropriate, more proper on there if everything's flush along the sides. So when you're assembling the roof, just remember, keep that word flush in there, and think, you want everything as tight as possible. Steps 16 through 26, we used 4 people, and one person did have to hold the roof panels, but we also used a 10-foot 2x4 beam, and we put a blanket at the end of the beam between the roof and the 2x4 to give the guy a break, and we could actually support the roofing, and he wasn't having to hold it up. But we did put a blanket between the 2x4 and the roofing, to keep it from scratching the roof or damaging the roof. So just a heads up, the 2x4 came in real handy. It was a 10-foot section. 10 foot actually fit properly for the center, all the way in the center. So it went all the way up to the top of the roof. One thing that helped us in steps 16 through 26 is I used Ziploc bags, and I numbered them from steps 16 through 26. Like, for example, this would be step 18. And I put all the screws and everything needed for that step in the bag. So when we got to that step, I knew everything I needed. I read the directions, and I had everything in the bag already ready to go. I didn't have to look from bag to bag to bag looking for each tool and item. So I just had everything in the bag, and we knocked the step out really fast. And when you got a person holding the roof, that made it so much easier. From him getting tired, you're not sitting there looking for each step, every screw. So for each step from 16 through 26, I used a Ziploc bag, marked the number, and put all the stuff ahead of time in there. And then I just lined it up, when we were on the day of with 4 people, and we put the roof sections up really fast. It was so easy. We weren't sitting there looking for each piece, and you'll learn that on the first day, that it's really tough. You're pulling out, you're looking for each screw, and half the time, 3/4 of the time, could be looking for your stuff. And so that made it a lot easier. I just wanted to pass it on for advice, because especially when somebody's holding up the roof, we knocked it out probably in half the time that it would have taken if, by taking the extra time and putting everything in each bag. And then when we had somebody up there, we were rocking. So we probably knocked it out in about 4 hours, putting the 4 roof panels up. But that's about all I can say about this 12 by 14 foot gazebo. It is sturdy. It is one of the strongest gazebos that I've seen. The wood, cedar wood, it's real strong. You're gonna get a lot of parts, but we had a lot of extra parts when we were done. We used everything everything there was a hole, we filled it in, so according to the directions, but we still had a lot of extra parts. One simple piece of advice is when you put the roof sections up, these roof to beam brackets, they're not gonna look like they're lining up, but once you screw them in, they go flush. They go flush right into the beam. So just a heads up, when you put your first panel up, second panel, and the third panel, the brackets are going to look a little off. There's going to be a few that are going to look a little off, but when you screw them down, they'll go flush right into your beam. So it's nothing to worry about when you're assembling it. Overall, it was about a 4-day project. The first day used we used 3 people, and we assembled everything in the garage for the beams, and then we came out with the posts, and then we attached the beams to the posts. But don't forget the leveler. Always use check 2 sides of each post and check all 4 posts, and if they're all straight and level, you're pretty much rocking, man. The measurements in the book, I didn't even pay attention to them. I just made sure they were all level, because it fits together like a puzzle once you start putting the beams together. So we the second day and the third day, I framed the roofing on the second day, and on the third day I put the sheet metal on top of the roofing. But on the 4th day, you definitely want to have 4 people, 4 ladders and 4 people, because it takes 4 people to actually do it all. One thing that was helpful, I heard in a video earlier, was have like a little giant ladder or a 2-sided ladder in the center. That way you can work off of both sides when you can go back and forth. And that was one thing that was helpful when we assembled the gazebo. We could actually, if you needed to screw something in over here, you could screw something in over here, and then if you had to go over here, you could screw something in, and you didn't have to move the ladder all over the place. You can go left or right on the ladder. So that was helpful. But definitely, you're going to need 4 people. follow the directions for everything it says. I just thought I'd add in this video just helpful hints to pay attention to. Like you want, like one, they stress the flush, keep everything flush on the roof panels. You definitely want to keep everything flush when you're assembling those roof panels, because when they go up, I mean, a half an inch could, you know, throw it off tremendously and make it look all messed up. But the other one, use your leveler to get your post straight. That makes sure your framework's straight and you're pretty much rocking and rolling for the rest of the steps and the directions. So also the thing that was helpful was that 2x4. Just to let you know, it was a 10-foot section. And don't forget the torquing on the screws. The guy advised, said a 4 on your drill. I used a 4 and it didn't over torque them. And then when I wanted to go along the edging, on the edging screws, I put the torque a little higher, and it made everything flush into the wood, so you knew it was flatter. It made the roof assembly a lot easier. But anyway, hopefully these helpful hints will help you guys out. Follow the directions, and these were just some added key things that helped me assemble the gazebo. And it's a beautiful gazebo. I couldn't be happier. It's sturdy, it's strong. I couldn't even imagine how much it weighs. It's really durable. But anyway, I just wanted to pass on these notes to help the next person out there. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you. Bye.